It's Saturday, January 24th, 2026, and what we're witnessing right now is the beginning of what could be the most significant winter storm in over a decade. This system just took a major turn overnight, and the forecast models are showing something that honestly has me concerned. If you're anywhere from Texas to Maine, you need to pay attention to what's happening right now. Here's what just changed. The European model came in this morning showing this storm has shifted about 100 miles further north than we thought yesterday, and that changes everything for millions of people. We're no longer talking about a typical winter storm. We're talking about a multi-hazard nightmare that's going to impact over 100 million Americans in the next 48 hours. Let me be crystal clear about the timeline here because timing is everything with this system. Right now, as I'm recording this, we've got snow falling in Dallas. That's not supposed to happen. Nashville is getting hammered with heavy snow. Oklahoma City, Little Rock, Memphis, you're all getting hit simultaneously. This storm doesn't care about your normal weather patterns. But here's what has me genuinely worried. The ice accumulation forecast just got significantly worse. We're now looking at potentially catastrophic ice accumulations from northeast Texas through Arkansas and into Tennessee. I'm talking about 3/4 of an inch to over an inch of ice in some locations. That's enough weight to snap power lines like toothpicks and leave people without electricity for days, potentially weeks. The setup is absolutely textbook for a devastating ice storm. We've got this massive dome of Arctic air that's locked in place across the southern United States. It's shallow, sitting right at the surface, but it's brutally cold. Above that cold air dome, we have much warmer air streaming in from the Gulf of Mexico. When precipitation falls through that warm layer, it melts completely. Then it hits that shallow cold layer near the ground and doesn't have time to refreeze before impact. The result? Freezing rain that accumulates as pure ice on every surface it touches. Let me walk you through exactly what's going to happen over the next 36 hours because the timeline is critical. Tonight around 8 p.m., we'll have a continuous zone of freezing rain stretching from the Mexican border all the way to the Kentucky-Tennessee line. Austin, San Angelo, Dallas, Shreveport, Monroe, and Oxford, Mississippi. You're all in the danger zone. This isn't light freezing drizzle. This is moderate to heavy freezing rain that's going to persist for hours. By Sunday morning at 9 a.m., the ice storm reaches peak intensity. Power outages are going to explode across a region from Jackson, Mississippi to Pine Bluff, Arkansas, and into Memphis. Nashville faces what could be 12 to 15 hours of nonstop freezing rain. That's unprecedented for that area. Now, there is one potential saving grace for Nashville, and that's what we call the warm nose aloft. If that column of warmer air pushes just a little further northwest, it could switch Nashville over to plain rain, which would wash away accumulating ice. But here's the problem. If that happens, it pushes the worst ice farther west into Memphis and eastern Arkansas, where they're less equipped to handle it. The snow side of this storm is equally impressive, but in a different way. The European model is showing a massive deformation band setting up across the Ohio Valley that could dump 3 to 4 inches of snow per hour. Cincinnati, Louisville, Indianapolis, you could wake up Sunday morning to over a foot of snow. Columbus and Pittsburgh are looking at significant accumulations as well. For the Northeast, this becomes a completely different animal. Snow starts in Richmond and Washington, D.C. around 11 p.m. tonight. By 6 a.m. Sunday, Washington sees heavy snow. The timing for New York City is critical. Snow begins around 6 a.m. Sunday and could be really intense by mid-afternoon. Boston is looking at what could be their biggest snowstorm in years, potentially exceeding 18 inches. But watch Washington, D.C. carefully. Around 11 a.m. Sunday, they transition from snow to sleet and then freezing rain. Imagine having 3 to 4 inches of snow on the ground, then sleet on top of that, then rain falling on the sleet while temperatures stay below freezing. That creates an absolutely treacherous travel situation. The model guidance has been remarkably consistent with the overall pattern, which gives me confidence in this forecast. The European model, which has been our most reliable guidance for this event, continues to show the ice threat maximized from eastern Texas through Tennessee. The GFS has been trying to show more sleet than freezing rain, which would actually be preferable, but I don't think that's going to verify. What's particularly concerning is how the National Blend of Models is handling the ice accumulations. This is supposed to be a conservative forecast tool, but even it's showing ice totals that are genuinely frightening. We're looking at 3/4 of an inch to over an inch of ice near the Mississippi River Valley. That's enough to cause catastrophic damage to the power grid. Let me put these ice accumulations in perspective. A 1/4 inch of ice with 15 to 25 mph winds causes scattered utility interruptions that can last 12 to 24 hours. 1/2 an inch to 3/4 of an inch causes severe disruptions with power outages lasting 1 to 5 days. Over an inch of ice, we're talking about prolonged and widespread utility interruptions with extensive damage to transmission lines. Outages could last 5 to 10 days or more in some areas. The bullseye for the worst ice appears to be from Shreveport, Louisiana to Tupelo, Mississippi, and up toward Nashville, Tennessee. If you live in this corridor and haven't prepared for extended power outages, you need to do that immediately. And I mean immediately. Stores are already running out of supplies in many areas. For snow totals, the National Blend of Models is showing some impressive numbers. Boston 16 to 20 inches, with some individual models pushing close to 2 feet. Albany could see 18 to 19 inches. The entire state of New York is looking at over a foot of snow in most areas. The I-95 corridor is where it gets tricky because of that warm nose issue I mentioned earlier. New York City could see 10 to 12 inches if we stay mostly snow, but there's a chance sleet mixes in and cuts those totals down. Philadelphia 8 to 10 inches, Washington and Baltimore 6 to 9 inches, but again, that depends on how much warm air infiltrates the system. Further west, Cincinnati looks golden for 12 to 16 inches. Louisville and Indianapolis could hit a foot easily. Even St. Louis might see 8 to 10 inches, though I think that's on the high end. Here's what makes this storm particularly dangerous. It's not just the immediate impacts. After the system moves through, the Arctic air mass that created it settles in and brings temperatures to near record lows across the southeast. We're talking about temperatures in the single digits as far south as northern Louisiana and Mississippi. If you're without power and it's 5 degrees outside with no backup heating, that becomes life-threatening very quickly. This is exactly why we've been emphasizing preparation. Check on elderly neighbors before this gets bad. Bring pets inside. Make sure you have alternative heating sources that don't require electricity. Know where your nearest warming shelter is and how to get there safely. Stock up on non-perishable food and water. Have flashlights and battery-powered radios ready. If you're in the ice zone, avoid travel completely once this starts. Emergency crews won't be able to respond to accidents when roads are covered in ice. If you're in the heavy snow areas, travel will be nearly impossible as well, especially with those potential snowfall rates of 3 to 4 inches per hour. What's particularly frustrating about this storm is how it evolved. Just 5 days ago, models were showing a much weaker system tracking further south. But as it got closer, the models converged on this nightmare scenario we're facing now. It's a reminder that winter weather forecasting, especially for ice storms, remains one of our biggest challenges. The atmospheric pattern driving this is also concerning for the longer term. This Arctic air mass is going to be locked in place across the southeast for at least a week, possibly longer, and there are already signals in the extended models for another significant storm system around February 1st. We're potentially looking at a very active and dangerous winter pattern. One thing that could help mitigate the ice accumulations, and this is what I'm hoping for, is if the freezing rain falls heavily enough that it can't efficiently accumulate. Think about it like trying to build ice on a surface. Would it be easier with a light mist or with a fire hose? The mist freezes and sticks better. If we get convective elements in this system, and some models are showing embedded thunderstorms, the heavy rain rates might actually limit ice accumulation somewhat. But that's hoping for the best case scenario. We need to prepare for the worst case, which is over an inch of ice, causing catastrophic power outages across a region that's not equipped to handle extended outages in frigid conditions. The bottom line is this: if you're anywhere from eastern Texas to western North Carolina, you're potentially facing a historic ice storm. If you're from the Ohio Valley to New England, you're looking at a major snowstorm. And everyone east of the Rockies is about to experience bitter cold that will persist for days. This isn't about creating panic. It's about making sure everyone understands the gravity of the situation and takes appropriate precautions. We've been tracking this system for a week, and while some details have changed, the overall threat has only increased. I'll have continuous updates as this system develops. The next critical update will be tonight around 8 p.m. when we start seeing the initial ice accumulations. Don't wait until then to prepare. Do it now while you still can. Stay safe, stay prepared, and I'll see you in the next update.